Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Chicago Abortion Fund. My name is Damillia, and I'm with the My Voice, My Choice Leadership Group, and I support a woman's right to choose.
And my name is Jessica, and I'm with the My Voice, My Choice Leadership Group as well, and I also support a woman's right to choose.
Okay, so today's show, we're going to continue with the format that we just recently started. We're going to introduce a form of birth control, and then we're going to go into our topic for this month. So the birth control method that we chose today was the NuvaRing.
The NuvaRing, just a couple pointers. The first thing is the cost, because that's so important. You can receive the NuvaRing for free at Planned Parenthood if you have the pink card, which is also called the Illinois Healthy Women's Card. So you can use that, and you can have that for free with that payment method. And then the regular pricing is between $20 and $60 per ring, and you would need 3 rings per month. So as you can see, it can get a little costly if you don't have a card for access.
So how the ring actually works is that it releases a hormone that's kind of similar to the hormones released in a woman typically anyway, but it keeps the ovaries from releasing eggs, and it also thickens the cervical mucus so the sperm cannot enter the uterus. So that's pretty much how it works. And like Jessica said, you need 3 because you insert your ring. It's like a small flexible ring. You insert it and it stays there for 3 weeks. Then you extract it, and that 4th week your menstrual cycle comes.
And that week you don't use the ring.
And you don't use it, and then the cycle repeats itself monthly. But like you said, you need 3 rings, so it could get costly. Some side effects of the ring, which is kind of typical across the board, are breast tenderness, nausea, increased vaginal discharge, vaginal irritation, and headaches.
And that would just be from the hormones. So.
Right. And again, it differs per person, so
okay,
whatever works best for you.
So the topic for this month, we chose domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we chose domestic violence to speak on this month. So we wanted to start with kind of like, what is domestic violence and what form can it take? So usually, when people think of domestic violence, they think of like physical violence, so attacking your partner or, being in some type of physical
and they primarily
contact.
Think of physical violence from a man to a woman,
right?
So
but it for sure exists in different ways than just physical violence, and then it also it's not a gender specific type of thing that happens. So there's physical violence, there's emotional violence, and then there's also verbal. Which and they all fall under the category of domestic violence. So like we said, the physical would be actually like using your hands physically physically hitting someone, using anything to harm somebody physically,
right?
And then emotional violence or abuse would be like the name calling, the anything that's used to kind of hurt someone else that's not necessarily that's not necessarily physical. You don't have to hit somebody to make them feel bad or to kind of show how you felt about it. So and then the other one will be verbal, which is it's kind of similar, but the difference between, I guess, verbal and emotional would be the verbal is like the actual, like, okay, I'm gonna use these words to kind of hurt you, but the emotional is like actually aiming at like
intentionally trying to mentally break you down,
right?
Yeah. And I want to stress, Jessica kind of touched bases on it in the beginning about this is not gender specific. I'm sorry, but most importantly, it's important to know that this is not a heterosexual issue.
Absolutely,
this is across the board with any person, whether it's same sex or if you're in a heterosexual relationship. So this definitely goes across the board. And also to touch base on the emotional, well, physical, we see that. That's the most common one that we see, and it leaves bruises. But those bruises can eventually fade away. Emotional, in my opinion, is more lasting because that emotional damage could, it could leave a really lasting impression on somebody. And again, with the verbal, a lot of people hear it, and I know me personally, I hear it in my family a lot. I have people that are very, very verbally abusive to their spouses in my family, and it's really ridiculous. But they don't see it as being a form of violence, but they perpetuate it every day.
And then also, like you said, your family, like when we talk about domestic violence or abuse, we have to remember that, like, you and your partner are not the only ones being affected by that violence. And so, you can't, like, it's kind of everybody's role to be a part of a relationship that you see as abusive or violent, so that it doesn't have the lasting effects on other people who are around them. So we that kind of brings us into the next part. We wanted to talk about being supportive of people that are in those types of relationships, either verbal, physical, or emotional, where you see that they have the kind of I guess, like, symptoms of someone who has been abused,
and not necessarily somebody that we personally know. It could be someone that just might run into you and want to vent about something that they're going through. Is ways to be supportive. And I just want to go into being supportive is not blaming the victim at all. By no means is it blaming the person. And I know I'm guilty of that, me personally.
Yeah. So, it can be hard. It can be hard to see someone go through, like, that type of relationship where you, like, that's not good, and you want to come in and save them, but at the same time, we have to remember that we're all human. And so, you can't kind of turn off, like, that love switch, like,
right.
Oh, no, I don't love him anymore because we got into that fight last night. Like, it doesn't change that fast. People have circumstances that, for sure affect the reasons why they stay or the reasons why they leave, or any of those things. Yep. So it's important to remember that just because you would do something doesn't mean that other people would do it, or that's the way that they handle the situation. You have to let people be human and learn, kind of learn to maneuver their relationships the way that they see fit.
Right. And I think it's when you mentioned that people's situations are different, that's very important, because like Jessica said, something that you feel that you may not do, that person is in a different situation than you. And oftentimes, I know me personally, I see the situation where the person's spouse is taking care of them, or they in a submissive position and they feel obligated to take that abuse, and that's never the case.
And that's kind of good that you brought that up, because it's like people have different financial situations, people have different living situations. So, like, how can you explain to someone that, like, the better option is to leave when they don't have a place to live if they leave, or they don't have food if they leave, even though, I mean, we know that it's the better option because, emotionally or physically we don't want to see people hurt, but we have to keep those things in mind. Also, for people who are in relationships, maybe with people who have been incarcerated, if you call the police on your boyfriend or your girlfriend, what happens? They're going to go back to jail, right? And if you have a child with someone, or if you have, these connections with someone, or they're paying the bills, like, you don't want them to go back to jail. And like I said before, like, you love them. You don't want them to go back to jail. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're trying to help someone, or when you're trying to to be that support person. The first thing is to make them safe, but we also don't want to push them away, and we also don't want them to feel, as if like we're the Superman, or we're better than their situation.
Right. Yeah. So I first want to while we're talking about this issue, before we drift off too deep, to give the domestic violence hotline number, which is 773-278-4566, and again, that is 24 hours. And if anybody who's viewing has an issue, or you just want to vent, or you have any questions, call the call-in center, and you can talk to us directly at 312-738-1060. And also, I'm gonna flash over Chicago Abortion Fund's overhead so you can get our information. Again, this is Chicago Abortion Fund. Our phone number is 312